Well-known verses this morning about light and life from John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. There came a man who was sent from God. His name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all men might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testifies concerning him. He cries out, saying, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me.' From the fullness of his grace we have all received one blessing after another. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but God, the one and only, who is at the Father's side, has made him known." It's very conventional to talk about light, and it's very good because it's not just a nice metaphor because we have Christmas tree lights. It is a hugely biblical topic, and if the Word says that we can see Jesus as the light of the world, then we need to see that. And in many ways it's familiar to all of you. But as this is not a carol service, not a Christingle, not a midnight mass, or not one of those special Christmas services, I just thought this morning we might reflect a little bit around the edges of some of this. Some of this which is perhaps not quite as easy, and which we can pick and prod at this morning about light. We know, as it says there, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness. And so it goes on, and so in John 8 Jesus can say, "I am the light of the world." And we've got a great feeling as you look at the New Testament that when he talks about light, Jesus is talking about grace, the active presence of God in the world, who comes, is good news, with good news, who brings forgiveness and redemption and guidance and revelation, and you can go on. All of those things are all good news. It is all gospel. Emmanuel, God with us. The light comes. That is good news. And you can see the metaphor in the star and the shining of the angels on the shepherds. And you can see it actually. It doesn't say so in the Bible, but in those slightly more old-fashioned Christmas cards where there's a kind of a spotlight on Bethlehem, that the light comes into the world sort of thing. We're all happy with that, I think, aren't we? I just want to prod you with two or three things this morning now. The first is that what the Bible tells us really, and what the implications of the light coming is. It says, so you need to look to the light. We need to be drawn to the light. One of the big things in the Bible is coming to Jesus. We have that in the Christmas story. Right? The shepherds come. The wise men come. There's a sort of coming. He has come, so people respond by being drawn to him. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you are heavy laden." Stands up at the feast and says, come, all you are thirsty. He says, "And when I am lifted up, I will draw all men to myself." So there's that really sense of one of the key things about the light is that men and women are drawn to light. You see the light, and hopefully like moths, you are drawn to it because you want to see. In other words, you want to come to Jesus and receive the life and the light and the forgiveness and the redemption and all of those things that we need. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Why would you not do that? What, as they say in modern terms, what's not to like about that? Why would you not come? You think to yourself, oh, we do come. That's what we're here at Christmas, isn't it? So people in those days didn't come, and perhaps we do not come because we do not see this light that Jesus reveals to us. He's here in his Spirit this morning. It's not just candles. We don't have problems with the Holy Spirit coming because we haven't got any matches. The light is here. So why might we not see it? Well, again, biblically, we don't see it possibly because we're asleep. I was looking at some footage of the all-night showing of the election, and extraordinary, all these people counting and running around and crying and laughing and shouting and swingometers and people getting ecstatic and despairing, all these numbers and all this sort of thing, I went to bed in the evening, I woke up in the morning and the whole political landscape of Britain had changed and I slept through the whole lot. It's a bit like when you're watching a series on the television and it's not very exciting, you go to sleep and then you think, I better watch that again. And you look, I didn't see that before. No, you were asleep. However bright it is, however interesting it is, and some of you will be doing this on Christmas afternoon, won't you? The high point of the year. And you wake up in time for the washing up. Because it doesn't matter what's going on, it doesn't matter how wonderful it is, how exciting it is, how bright it is, if you're asleep, you do not see it. I wonder, bearing in mind that the Gospels are so interested in crowds, often the Gospels will talk about a crowd coming and many people coming to Jesus. There is no evidence of a crowd on the night in Bethlehem. How many people in Bethlehem slept through the whole thing? Oh, what was all that about angels? Shepherds have gone home, the wise men haven't arrived yet. All you've got is a baby who looks pretty normal, the pyrotechnics are all over. I slept through the whole thing. You feel with many of the people who, as Jesus talked about, those who pass by, are just sleepwalking through the whole thing. We can sleepwalk through it, not just because we're busy and because we're tired, but because we think we know it. You don't need to look at the light if you know it's there. People down on the Lizard who live within sight of the lighthouse on the end of the Lizard don't get up early morning and say, oh, there's the lighthouse. You get used to it. I've known people over the years who I've visited who've got a great view from their living room. And I go, wow! And some of them say, yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Before sitting down with their backs to it. And so we know that Jesus is the light. We know he can bring us fresh forgiveness. We know he can bring us fresh strength and hope and that. And because of that, you don't even bother with it. We know all that. So we spiritually walked through it and sung the carols, and that's fine. That's good. Only it's not okay, is it? You do not see the light because you're asleep. Who's spiritually asleep with their eyes closed? You see that in Romans 13:11 particularly, Paul talking about the second coming, but it equally applies to the first coming. You know that the time to wake up from your sleep has come. Or in 1 Thessalonians 5, you should not be sleeping like the others. Awake, sleeper. That's a good thing, brother. You're going to sleep through this, spiritually and emotionally. But there's also another more difficult strand in the New Testament that suggests we might not see it because we either close our eyes on purpose or our eyes are blind. It says in Luke 11:34, Jesus says, Your eye is the lamp of the body. If it is bad, your whole body is full of darkness. in John 3, people love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. 2 Corinthians 4:4, their minds were kept in the dark by the evil god of this world. He keeps them from seeing the light shining on them. In other words, there's none so blind to those who won't see, isn't it? If you close your eyes on purpose, you are not going to see it. And sometimes we say, I don't want to see that, I don't want to see that. And sometimes if you're in bed asleep and the light goes on, the main light goes on, not the little light, but the big light. Somebody's put the big light on. You go, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Let's put the light, turn the light off, you know. And you can do that spiritually. Get used to. And it's talking about sin, really, isn't it? You get used to that. I don't want to see the light. Again, in lots of people in the New Testament, they don't want to see it. Herod, the last thing what Herod wants is light. All right? He doesn't want light. Lots of people do not want to see. They've got used to the darkness. They instinctively close their eyes. Or, to use the other metaphor you have in the Bible there, their sin has blinded them. The evil one has blinded them. This is important for us. It is not just that Jesus can be crowded out by the many other things we do at Christmas, but if those things are sinful, they will disable us spiritually. It means that you just cannot go on thinking, Lord, I just want to receive you, I want to feel your presence at Christmas. When you are intentionally going through Christmas with a relationship which needs to be healed, which you refuse to do, with a meanness which is obvious, which you refuse to confess, with this or that, it's not just that these are contradictory, it's that they cause spiritual blindness. How many Christians that go through Christmas desperate for a fresh experience of Jesus, whilst actually carrying along with something which is at best like dark glasses and at worst like a polythene bag over their heads, you know? Which is where the spiritual... It's interesting passages these are. The evil one has blinded their eyes. Be careful about that. We do not see because we are blind. But there's also a sense we might not be seeing because we're looking in the wrong direction. I have often done this. And my children will say, Dad, you want to see this? And I'm looking in the wrong... Where have I gone now? I remember that. One of the great things I want to see when I'm in Cornwall and time is running out is a whale. People who write to the Cornishmen see whales, don't they? Where are these whales when I'm out there? Just one. But I can imagine that I'm out there on the coastal path and I've got my binoculars looking at some bird in a tree. And the whale goes, and that's it. You know, I'm looking in the wrong direction. The people in the New Testament often do not see the light of Jesus because they've got other things to look at. You know? Whether it's their self-interest like Herod, whether like the rich young ruler, they're looking at their wealth, their status and their pension. Whether like Martha, she's looking to make sure the supper doesn't boil over rather than looking at Jesus. They all need to hear that. Yeah. Hebrews, we need to be looking to Jesus. We've got lots of other things to look at. Okay, so we're looking at them, but we can't look at Jesus at the same time. We're looking in the wrong way. I haven't got eyes in the back of my head, but we often behave as so we do. I can look at this and this and this, and I can... No, where was Jesus? No, I missed Jesus. Where was Jesus? Well, you weren't looking in the right direction. One of the things that you've got to do with training, I've seen in training young soldiers on night duty to do sentry duty, is to be able to go on concentrating, looking for something out there and not being distracted by all these other lights and bits and bits. You don't want to look at that, just look at that. And again, you feel there's a sense we can be distracted by bigger lights, bigger fireworks, more excitement, and we're not looking. So I think there's a whole area. He comes to draw us to himself. He comes so that you can see him. Are you looking this Christmas? There are a whole lot of biblical reasons why we might not be. And it will be a shame if you came through Christmas and say, I just didn't really feel a sense of Jesus. Whereas in fact, you've been sleeping or closing your eyes or looking in the wrong direction. Forewarned is forearmed. But the light in the Bible does not just come to draw us to himself. It comes to illuminate our world. This whole business of the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. He shall reign forever and ever, and his kingdom will have no end. It will be a kingdom of peace, and the lion will lie down with the lamb. All that kind of thing. And this is important for the world. It's important for people around us. That's the thing people often pick up on who aren't Christians, that the light comes into the world, and the world needs the light because it needs a fresh start in its politics, in its ecology, in its relationships, in everything. It needs this light to transform the world, or what you and I would call, we need the kingdom to break into the world. But for we who might perceive this and think about it at Christmas and sing carols about the light coming and the new world and all this kind of thing, it's a real challenge that it hasn't come. I think it's something to pick around a bit. Where are the lions lying down with the lambs? Where is this peace? Where is this new world? I mean, after all, in that first Christmas story, there's not much of it about, is it? It's mostly darkness, and Herod is still having a good time, and Jesus has got, is soon going to be a refugee, and is going to start off with genocide. I think we need to learn to live as people of the light in a dark world, rather than being triumphalist or kind of just singing the whole things and feeling, thank you, Lord, it's all going to be better, when it is not better, and there have been 2,000 years of it, and there have been, getting on for 70 years of my life, and it's no better. We need to cope with that. We need to deal with it. We need to be realistic about it. We need to be like Mary, to start off with, who pondered all these things in her heart. The angels were happy, the shepherds were happy, the wise men were happy. As far as I know, the camels were happy. But Mary ponders these things in her heart because she's still a woman who's just had a birth in a squalid stable 90 miles from where she lives. It's all right arriving on a donkey, you're going back on the donkey. That's a long way to go. It doesn't feel good. But she hangs on. She ponders all these things in her heart. We need to live as people of the light in a dark world rather than pretending it's becoming a light world. It doesn't look like that. Hold this truth in your hearts. The light shines in the darkness, even if you don't see it. As God says in the Old Testament, behold, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not see it? And again I've read that passage and I've said, no, Lord, I don't see it. I need to live with it. I need to live with that truth. I believe that truth. I ponder it in my heart. I think that's good to do. And also to be perhaps then move on from that to the watchman shouting in the ruins. Waste places of Jerusalem, shout for joy. You shout about the newness and the new Jerusalem in the ruins. We need to make a noise. We need to proclaim the good news. Proclaim it. Believe it. Make a fuss about it. Do not let the darkness settle. Be prepared to say, our God comes when he has not come to the naked eye. Those people in Isaiah. It's still over the horizon, but we are shouting now. We're not pretending. It's not virtual reality. Oh, it's a new Jerusalem. You don't make new Jerusalems with just computer images. You say it's not there, but we believe it will be here. You carry on with that. And I think also when he says, do not see it, lots of the people in the Bible did not see these small things. One of the things you sing about in the carols is small beginnings, babies, all that sort of thing. Perhaps we need to look harder. Where God is working in people's lives, where people are being put off, but there's still good things happening. I was in Market Jew Street yesterday morning. It was just beginning to rain. Market Jew Street was not at its best, but it was trying, There was a few bits and pieces around, and of course it was a dark day, so all the municipal lights were turned off. It's really good if you get up at 1 o'clock in the morning. They look wonderful, but they were all off. So it was like that in Market Jew Street. And anyway, there's some Christians there doing some great stuff with a PA and telling people about Jesus. People just went in all directions. It's extraordinary. They don't want to know because they have been blinded. And I went up to them and said, "You're doing a great job." And one of them said, "You won't believe this guy came along and he was an atheist and we just prayed for him and he just lit up." I just see that in Market G Street on a bad day. We need to look a bit harder. Just look a bit harder. To see, not to imagine things, but you will see God doing things in the woodwork. The devil's seen that. He doesn't like it, but often we will not see it. We look harder. Do you not see it? No, look. Well, look harder. I also think that you're called, as Jesus says, let your light so shine before man. You are lights to the world, he says. We need to look more at how we are channels of grace, how we become lights. What are you doing towards the light? Are you sitting on the sofa waiting for the light to come? Now, the light is at work, and I need to be more of a channel of grace. What are you doing towards the light this Christmas? The shepherds went back and spread the light. They told them everything was about it. The wise men went back a different way to tell people about it. So I think we just think around, how do I honestly live as a person of the light in a dark world when the light doesn't seem to be showing up a lot and the lions are not lying down with the lambs, where Trump rules, sort of thing. Now, let me just say one final thing now about what the Bible says about this light, this sense in which it shines on everyone. John 1 says, the light that shines on everyone. When the angels came and the light shone on the shepherds, they were terribly afraid. They weren't drawn to anything. They didn't think about a new world. They think, "Oh my gosh, the light's shining on me." And not only is it to draw people, not only is it to illuminate the world, but there's a sense in which the light comes to shine on us. Now you might think, that's great. But how do you look in the light? I was visiting my daughter and son-in-law recently, and their top bathroom is not light. It's quite dark, actually. It's a little sort of dark. And I'm looking at it. I'm going to have a shave. You see, it's got this mirror here to shave on. And then I thought, I can't see anything there, which in a way is a good thing. But and it was a little bit of string. So I pulled a bit of string, and all these little LED lights came on in the mirror. And I looked, and I said, well, that's not a lot good. Typical LED lights, no light, is there? But then, of course, I looked in the mirror, and bingo, these lights are shining on me, and that's reflecting on the mirror, and I can see me to shave. And that's very clever, isn't it? It wasn't a good sight, but it was good for shaving, The light shines on you. How do you look? The light shines in the darkness. How are you looking? So many people in the Gospels do not like the light shining on them. They do not like it because it perhaps brings judgment. And Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And the light shows that you religious authorities, you makers of the law, you this, you that, you are snakes, you are in darkness, you are not good at all. Let's illuminate this. You were a self-righteous lot. They don't, I don't want that, all that. The light shines, whether they like it or not. But on other people, like beggars and lepers and prostitutes and all those sort of people, the light shines on them and they say, oh, they're bad. No, the light's not showing it. Very different. I think it was St. Thomas of Kempis who said, a man is what he is in God's sight, not the slightest bit more and not the slightest bit less. And this Christmas you might think, how do I look to God when he shines his light on me? How do I look to God when he shines his light on me? And if you are somebody who's rolling through Christmas and think, I'm above average and a good Methodist or whatever it is, he might shine light on you and it might be an uncomfortable experience. And you might be thinking, there are things that need to be sorted out in my life, things need to be forgiven, things need to be changed. On the other hand, you might be somebody who has a poor self-image, who feels depressed and feels pessimistic and is thinking, I don't know, perhaps because of my finances or my health, the future doesn't look good, and people don't like me. And he shines on you and says, you are greatly loved. I have you in my hand. I have your future. Oh, I hadn't seen that before. No, but I'm shining my light on you so that you can see how I see you. Not how you see you. It's not your light. It's not other people's light, their opinion. It's my opinion. The light shines on you. I thought to myself, how would I bear scrutiny this Christmas? By a light which is powerful and loving. So just a few thoughts there about this light. Am I going to go through this with my eyes open and drawn to the light of Jesus? Beware being asleep. Beware closing your eyes. Beware looking in the wrong direction. Am I going to learn to live as a person of the light intelligently in a dark world where the kingdom does not seem to be making the lions lie down with the lambs yet? And will I bear scrutiny? What do I look like in God's light? I need to be forgiven, but I need to be restored. I need to be encouraged by the light and the love of Jesus.